Well then, yes, I may have screens and notes, but what I haven't got is any clue what's going to happen in our next race. This is the third and final race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship, and it is a partially reversed grid which sees Aaron Johnson and Ross Martin share the front row. Rory Smith and James Clark are on row 2 together, then Spike Colbecker and Jonathan Brown with Neil McLennan and Jamie Sharp. Neil McLennan, who won our second race, starts on row 4 with Jamie Sharp, who just missed out on the grid reversal. Then Max Marzarati and Jamie Thorburn round out the top 10. Morgan Quinn was the top rookie in race 2, as indeed he was in race 1, with Jason Down rounding out the top 12. Then we've got Adam Quartermain and Scott Huntley, Henry Chart and Nicole Woods at the back, with Michael McPherson hopefully right at the back, except I don't think he is, because that's Nicole. Oh, there he is in the background. So Michael McPherson is there in the number 16 car, but unfortunately was a late non-finisher in race 2. So we've had 2 races this weekend. Spike Colbecker won the first one from Neil McLennan and Aaron Johnson. Race 2, Neil McLennan won with Jonathan Brown second and Spike Colbecker third, all of which means that there are, we reckon, about 18 points between Ross Martin and Spike Colbecker at the top of the championship table coming into this final race of the weekend, with Neil McLennan then a further 5 points back. So that's roughly how it works out, but there are drop scores that come into that as well, so that's not necessarily exactly how it is, but it will be close to that. So the gap that was quite significant, so we were talking 40 odd points coming into the weekend, has now definitely come down because Ross Martin's not had a brilliant weekend. He was only 10th in race 1 and worked his way as high as 6th in race 2, but for this one, because of the way the reverse grid works, he's actually found his way onto the outside of row 1. There's a car down the pit lane which we'll pick up for you in a moment or two, but everybody else is ready to go racing then for 15 minutes, the third and final race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Formula Ford racing at Brands Hatch is always exciting. This one, I'm sure, will be as well. Lights go on, lights go off. Now, away we go. Good start made by Johnson from pole position. In fact, the top 3 or 4 fairly evenly matched off the line. The Team Dolan car of Ross Martin tries to attack round the outside into Paddock Hill Bend, but no, ducks back in line in second position. Keep an eye on the 3 Cliff Dempsey Racing red and white cars, 4th, 5th and 6th on the run up the hill. They fan out round the outside. Comes Rory Smith trying to go from 3rd to 1st. That won't quite work, but Ross Martin, the championship leader, finds himself pinched in the middle. There's almost a bit of wheel banging go off the corner, and somehow he hangs on to second place. Here comes James Clark round the outside in 77, settles back into 4th. So it's Johnson that leads the way then. It's Martin 2nd, 3rd Smith, 4th place for Clark. 5th appears to be Neil McLennan then, so McLennan's gained 2 spots already in the Kevin Mills racing machine, the second of the blue and white cars just there. Yep, 5th he is, so he's ahead of 2 of the Cliff Dempsey cars already. He's found a way ahead of Jonathan Brown and Spike Colbecker, both of whom started in front of him, but Ross Martin knows he needs to get on with this now, pulls to the outside. They're almost dead level at the end of the opening lap, but Ross Martin actually sets the faster lap. It's very rare that it's not the race leader who sets the fastest lap on race 1, but Ross Martin is really charging, goes to the outside, gets back to the inside on the edge of the corner, but there's a car off the side of the road. There's a car off through the extra paddock, and they are still racing. Now surely there were yellow flags out. Surely, he says, hopefully. I can't actually see any yellow flags out of my window, but I would hope there would be. Oh, Rory Smith there on the inside of Johnson now as they go down the hill. So Martin, now you see Martin went through, but if that wasn't under yellow flags, then I would be amazed. That, I think, is the car that was in the pit lane to start the race, which was Morgan Quinn, double rookie winner this weekend, and he was in the pit lane at the start, pulled out onto the track, and then the car hasn't made it up Hailwood Hill, but well, I'm not sure what will happen there. Ross Martin went through anyway, that much I can tell you, with Johnson down to 2nd, 3rd for, now, James Clark by the looks of it. Yeah, James Clark 3rd ahead of Rory Smith 4th, then McLennan 5th ahead of Colbecker and Brown. So Colbecker is still ahead of Brown then, which is how they started, but they both dropped behind Neil McLennan. So now Aaron Johnson becomes the cork in the bottle rather now, as he tries to keep everybody else behind. 2, 4, 6, 7 of them together, right the way back to Jamie Sharp running in 8th position, all of them in a big queue fighting over the bottom steps of the podium, which is perfect for Ross Martin, who might now be able to pull away at the head of the field. Down the Cooper Straight they go then. There is Neil McLennan, winner of race number 2 earlier on, and sideways for James Clark, who was doing that in the previous race earlier on this afternoon. It's spectacular to watch, and he seems to carry good speed through the corner as a result. Gets in the tow now, and Johnson, the only driver in this queue who does not have a slipstream from the car in front. And will that allow maybe James Clark to pull out a move into Paddock Hill Bend? Well, Neil McLennan does, and goes up the inside of Rory Smith. Nicely done. McLennan then into 4th place, and Neil McLennan on a real charge here. He's still 3rd in the points as far as I can work out coming into this race, but he outscored Spike Colbecker in the previous race, so he's closed that gap right down. And at the moment, Colbecker not having a brilliant race, so this is definitely McLennan's opportunity to move into the top 2 in the championship, but it's all tightening up at the top now. So through Surtees, I think Johnson did lose out in the end to James Clark, didn't he? Yes, he did. So Clark is now into 2nd, Johnson 3rd, and then McLennan 4th. And now McLennan is in the tow again, looking to try and make another move. So too is Spike Colbecker, and off is 16, which is Michael McPherson, who retired in the previous race, we think, with mechanical issues. So he's off the road and out of the race, coming out of Graham Hill Bend. Lead gap is 1.7 seconds, but Ross Martin just set the new fastest lap, so he's pulling away now to the tune of 4/10 over Clark on the previous lap. It was an overtake for Clark on that previous lap. Still, Johnson is 3rd. Can Aaron manage to hang on for the rest of this race, though, to this position? That looks maybe not all that likely, because he's really coming under pressure now. Is the American Aaron Johnson. He's from Louisiana in America, despite not having a particularly American sounding name, and he's about to lose 3rd place. Oh, McLennan's on the inside, and you could see by the way McLennan was getting sideways there that he thought that Johnson was going to close the door. As it is, that has opened the floodgates now for everybody else to come through. Rory Smith gets alongside, so too will Spike Colbecker. And that's at least 3 places lost now for Johnson, who unfortunately could find himself going right to the back of that pack now. Through Paddock. Up the hill, oh, he's in the gravel now, and well, they have all gone through now, so all of the Cliff Dempsey racing cars go through, so does Jamie Sharp, actually, and he might even lose one to Max Marzarati. I think he has, so that really was a disaster for Aaron Johnson, who drops now well out of contention. So that's 1 down, but there are still plenty of other drivers in this queue, many of them with championship aspirations still, even at this relatively late stage of the year. Clearways, they go onto the pit straight, so the order is Ross Martin leading the way. Now the gap was 1.8 seconds, it is now 1.9, so he continues to pull away from James Clark in 2nd. McLennan in 3rd is quicker than him though by a 1/10, so McLennan might be able to do something about Clark. He was only 1.8 back. There are the top 3, and then for 4th place, it's all changed because Jonathan Brown's been up the inside there of Rory Smith into Paddock, but now Spike Colbecker, who somehow is behind his teammate now. No, he's back ahead of him now, so Colbecker gets past the pair of them. So there's something strange went on there, because at the line it was Brown 5th with Colbecker 6th and Smith ahead of both of them, and now Smith has lost 1 position, but it's not to Brown, it's to Colbecker. So Colbecker looks to have gained 2 places in 1 there, and he's now up into 5th position. Smith 6th, then Brown, then Sharp. So a real shuffle there through Paddock. But Spike Colbecker then, the man who's 2nd in the championship, trying to close this gap on Ross Martin, but no one can close the gap on Ross Martin in this race. Side by side again here as Brown goes to the outside of Smith. All about trying to tee up that exit and get back alongside into Druids, which he might be able to do. There's a car in the gravel further back, and that's Marzarati, and he's in the tyres and back along the road as well. Max Marzarati has got it all wrong coming out of Paddock Hill Bend, and once you're in that gravel, the tyre wall starts to loom larger, and he almost missed it, but sadly caught the wall with the left rear corner, and that has spat the car back across the track into the road, and that will certainly be a safety car for the stricken number 81 car. It's a shame for Max, who was having a decent race there, but the safety car, I think, is already on standby, and I see no way that they can continue the race with the car there. You can see it's half on and half off the track. The cars come through at the moment. Yes, the safety car boards and flags are now coming out, so the safety car then being scrambled, not a huge surprise, and that is the 2nd time only that we've seen that today. Actually, it's been a fairly clean day of racing, but that was a fairly big hit there for Max Marzarati, and with the car left half on and half off the road, no choice in the end but to scramble the safety car to pick them up. So now this changes, as they say, everything, because Ross Martin had this 1.8 second lead over James Clark, which now vanishes into thin air, and James Clark gets right onto his gearbox, and look who he's bringing with him. Neil McLennan and Spike Colbecker. So Ross Martin's two nearest rivals now will be third and fourth, and instead of being about 5 or 6 seconds behind him, they'll be maybe 1 second behind him, if that, by the time we restart. So we talk a lot in Formula 4 racing about the toe and about breaking the toe. Once you break the toe, it's very, very hard for the cars behind to close back in on you, unless you get a safety car, and then it's very, very hard to pull away from them again. So, as is often the case with these reverse grid races, and we saw this to an extent in the MX-5 Super Cup race earlier on today, or about, half an hour or so ago, when the in a reverse grid race, if one of the 4 men, if one of the really quick drivers gets to the lead and then pulls away, that can be it. There can be no catching them sometimes. That's what we saw from Jack Harding, for example, in that reverse grid MX-5 race earlier on. He got the lead at the start and never looked back. Ross Martin was trying to do the same sort of thing here, take advantage of a good grid position and then get the lead and check out, which he was doing. But now, unfortunately, the racing god's not shining down on him, and we get a safety car. Now, sometimes when we get safety cars in these Formula 4 races, because they are such short races, they will add 5 minutes on to the 15 minutes. But I don't know whether we've got time to do that today. Time-wise, this race was due to finish at 3:50, which is in 10 minutes' time. So we've just about got enough time, maybe. They could do that without going too far off schedule. But we must finish racing by 6:30. And our final race is due to finish at, guess what, 6:30. So they may elect to just add time on at the end. We'll wait and see. If they don't, though, we may not have all that much racing left, which would be a shame. Because we've 5.5 minutes left on the clock. This will take at least 2 or 3 laps, you'd imagine, to get the 81 car off the road. Because it is in a precarious position, so it needs moving, but it's also got that suspension damage, which means it can't be towed. It'll have to be put onto the back of a flatbed truck. That takes time, unfortunately. So 2/3 of the way through then, Ross Martin leads the way, and if he were to finish there, he would score 32 points. Fastest lap, by the way, is worth 2 points, so he's actually on for maximum points at the moment, 34 for Martin. So that would be about 60 points scored this weekend after that disappointing 10th place in race 1. While Spike Colbecker, well, let's go with Neil McLennan first. Neil McLennan is 3rd. He'd scored 24 points, which would be 80 points. So it would be about a 20-point gain over the weekend for Neil McLennan. And in fact, no, he scored even more than that, sorry, because he scored 27 in race 1. So yeah, he scored about 85 points this weekend. So maybe a 25-point swing. So that's how quickly the fortunes can change. And yes, you drop your worst scores. Not sure how many it is these days. There was a point where it was 5 races that you dropped. But yeah, I'm not sure now. It's certainly going to be a tighter championship equation as we leave Brands Hatch than it was when we came here, which is good for us. Not so good for Ross Martin, but it's very good for us because it looks increasingly likely that this championship will go down to the wire now. Just what we wanted to see, getting into that part of the year as well now that I really love, where we start to really analyse the points, and every point and every position on the track starts to take on extra significance. And it's always fascinating to see these championships as we get into the closing stages and what it does to the drivers, and especially a championship like this, which is very much a stepping stone on the way to the upper echelons of single-seater racing. There's someone who unfortunately is doing no more racing today, Max Maserati, who's missed the last couple of rounds actually. But he is one of the drivers racing in the club championship actually as well, and he's the highest placed club championship racer who is here, having missed the last 2 rounds. There's also the Triple Crown, which Brands Hatch is part of, and Spike Colbecker was leading that by a single point over Ross Martin. Well, of course, he will have extended that margin now, but actually I think Neil McLennan will have probably taken the lead of the Triple Crown. The Triple Crown essentially is the races that take place at Britain's 3 biggest racetracks, so the Brands Hatch, Silverstone and Donington usually, and the Triple Crown in its second round now. Looks as though Neil McLennan's going to go to the top of that particular points table. What we are going to see now, though, is a race restart. Now, the timing screen is still saying only 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, so I don't think they're going to have time to add the 5 minutes on. So it is going to be a 2 or 3 lap dash for the cash now. Can Ross Martin hang on to take what would be a truly valuable race victory, possibly the most valuable race victory of the season so far for the man who scored more points than anybody else last time out at Croft? Things are rather unravelled here at Brands Hatch. He would love to end the weekend on the top step of the podium. Let's see if he can do it. The top 3 make a break already then, so that's Martin, Clark and McLennan, with Spike Colbecker in 4th position, not really able to go with them. 0.6 seconds behind them already at the flag. Through paddock they go, and James Clark right on the tail of Ross Martin. Behind there's some side-by-side action there as Rory Smith tries to fend off Jonathan Brown. Oh, and there's a car in the gravel, and I think that's Nicole Woods, unfortunately, who's gone off. Yes, it is. That's number 10, Nicole Woods, who's gone off at paddock on cold tyres, and they have added those 5 minutes on. That's good news. But sadly, we may now lose them again, because we could have another safety car period. Certainly yellow flags will be needed at Paddock Hill Bend, but that is quite a dangerous place that car's ended up. We'll wait and see what happens. For now, though, the race is continuing. Ah, no, the safety car's being called again, so safety cars breed safety cars, as they say, and that seems to be the case here, and unfortunately James Clark's attempts to overtake Ross Martin will now come to an end. Now, the good news is that this car has not sustained any suspension damage that I can see, so it shouldn't be as difficult to hoik out of the gravel. It will still not be the work of the moment. It will take them a few minutes, so we're probably going to be back down to about a 2 or 3 minute sprint, I reckon. So in the end, they needn't have bothered with the extra 5 minutes in a way, but it's nice that the BRSCC try and do that, because they are short races. We want to guarantee the drivers and the spectators, and everyone watching at home, as much racing as we can, so they will add the time on where time allows, but I don't think they can afford to add too much more time on. There's Nicole Wood's car then, in the gravel trap. See quite clearly what's happened there. Lost it on the way in, gone off backwards, and into the gravel trap she goes. So Nicole, she's quite a long way around the corner actually, so she's lost it over the crest by the looks of it. And that's what Bryn was talking about earlier on. The fact that these cars don't have any downforce really means that going over the top of that hill where the car goes light, usually the wings on a single seater will be pushing it down into the ground, but it goes very light over the crest of that hill, and that can make it quite floaty. It won't actually take off completely, but it's not being forced into the ground the same way a Formula 3 car, for example, is. And so that makes it very easy to lose the rear through paddock. The quickest way through paddock is in a controlled slide, but unfortunately Nicole lost control and went off the road. So, we now have 4 minutes and 20 left on the clock. Nicole Wood's car is almost out of the way. I'm going to engage optimism here and say we might go racing this time, if not next time. If it's next time, it will be 2 minutes on the clock. If it's this time, though, we might scrape together 3 minutes or so. There is Nicole's car, which is completely off the road now. The question is, where does the snatch vehicle need to go? Can they leave the snatch vehicle behind the barriers with it, or does it need to go back to its post? That I don't know. It looks though, yeah, the lights are out, so that answers the question. So we are going to go racing with just over 3 minutes left on the clock, and Ross Martin will have some defending to do to try and keep James Clark behind him then. James Clark in the 77 Cliff Dempsey racing car. Cliff Dempsey have had an up and down day today, it's fair to say. They've had a car on the podium in each race. In fact, they had 2 cars on the podium in the previous race. Despite Colbecker won a race for them yesterday. Now, it's James Clark who is the last arrow, really, left in their bow, because the other cars aren't really likely to challenge for the victory, but James Clark certainly is. Once again, he's right on his toes at the race restart, and with 3 1/4 minutes to go, he pulls to the outside into Paddock Hill Bend, trying to make the move stick through the right-hander. Look at the exit speed. No, he's not quite as quick as the race leader is. And Ross Martin keeps the Van Diemen ahead. It's always nice to see a bit of variety out there as well. Van Diemen's, Rays, Spectrums, Medinas, even a Bagale or 2. Formula Ford Racing, the cars all look identical, but there are different chassis providers. They all run with the same engine though, and Neil McLennan, well, didn't get a great exit there from Graham Hill Bend. Had to just move over to defend slightly from Spike Colbecker, who is very much one of his championship rivals here. Oh, there's another car off now. Who's that? That's Henry Chart, I think, that's gone off. Now, it looks like he's gone off, coming to the restart, and that... Well, they can't really throw another safety car because we're going to run out of laps here before much longer. We'll run out of time anyway, with only 2 minutes and 20 left on the clock. Well, I don't know what's going to happen with that car. If that's not in a dangerous position, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, the leading 4 head up the hill. We're still racing for now, and they're fanning out there. One car in the gravel further back. Sensing maybe that this might be it now. This might be where the race is called. Down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. No change then. Still, Ross Martin leads the way, but look at the exit there that James Clark's got, but you can't overtake into Surtees because there are yellow flags out. Oh, that will be massively frustrating the second place man. Looks like they're going to leave that car under waved yellows. You can overtake it to the next corner, and Neil McLennan does. He goes up the inside of James Clark for second place. That was brilliant opportunistic driving. Clark was taking the outside line to try and carry the speed onto the straight and challenge for the lead, and it's all backfired. McLennan gets up the inside, and Spike Colbecker will try to follow him through as well. 2 laps to go, since it looks like there will not be a safety car, and it's going to be McLennan into second. And does Colbecker go through to third? Yes, he does. So it all changes, and Neil McLennan straight away onto the tail of Ross Martin, the championship leader. This is big stuff now for the championship campaign, because the top 3 are all together. James Clark's trying to go back round the outside of Colbecker, but to no avail. So the top 3 on the road are now the top 3 in the championship, and I think they might be in championship order as well. So this is going to be really, really significant now, going into the final lap of the race. You still can't overtake at Surtees, but you can, I think, overtake into the next corner at McLaren, because that's where Neil McLennan made his move a lap ago. But there's no gap on the inside this time. Ross Martin drifts a bit wide, though. The Kevin Mills racing car of Neil McLennan gets the better exit. The Spectrum in the slipstream now as we go on to the last lap of the race, and it's going to be a real grandstand finish here. Down to Paddock Hill Bend. There's a bit of room behind McLennan, so he feels confident enough to go to the outside into Paddock, trying to get the better exit again from the corner. He's been good through here all weekend long, gets in the tow, but already Ross Martin moves over to defend. There are 8 or 9 cars nose to tail going up the hill towards Druids. Something will have to give here, and running out wide I think is Spike Colbecker. Spike Colbecker might be about to lose third place. Yes, round the outside goes James Clark. In fact, so Clark this time was the man on the outside. The 2 Cliff Dempsey racing cars near identical, especially at that distance, but it is Clark that's gone back ahead. So clearly no team orders at Cliff Dempsey Racing. So through Surtees they go for the final time. It looks as though Ross Martin has just about done enough to hang on to the race victory. It's not been his strongest weekend of the season, but it's going to end in the strongest way possible with a win and the fastest lap. Maximum points in race 3 for Ross Martin, who fends them all off to take the victory in race 3 at Brands Hatch. Second place goes to Neil McLennan, third James Clark, fourth Spike Colbecker, and Rory Smith in fifth, with Jonathan Brown, Jamie Sharp, Jamie Thorburn. The top 8 cars, 1.8 seconds covered them at the flag. 9th place for Adam Quartermaid, and 10th in the end for Jason Down. What a race that was. It may have been rather disrupted by yellow flags and safety cars, but when they weren't going off the road, there was some top tier Formula Ford racing there. And if that doesn't whet your appetite for the Formula Ford Festival at the end of the year, I don't know what will. Ross Martin with the victory, Neil McLennan second, James Clark third, Spike Colbecker fourth, and Rory Smith rounds out the top 5. Jonathan Brown 6th, Jamie Sharp 7th, and Jamie Thorburn 8th. Look how close that was amongst the top 8 or so. 9th place Adam Quartermain, 10th for Jason Down. Aaron Johnson, by the way, ended up in 11th position, with Scott Huntley in 12th. And they were the last 2 finishers, because we lost Henry Chart, Nicole Woods, Max Maserati, Mike McPherson and Morgan Quinn, unfortunately. Morgan Quinn, in fact, a non-starter. So there is the confirmation of the retirements list, and they missed out on a brilliant race in the end. And we look forward now to more of the same as we move into the final part now of the season. And it looks now increasingly like the championship will go down to the decider at Donington Park at the end of the year. And that's good news for us, because that's going to be a fantastic way to end the 2019 season. It's been a championship that's taken Formula Ford racing right the way across the country, but the last 2 national meetings will be at 3, in fact, Kyrgyzstan in Ireland, Silverstone National on the 14th and 15th of September, and then back here on the 28th and 29th of September. They don't race at the final round of TCR because it always is a bit close to the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival and the Silverstone Walter Hayes Trophy, the two big end-of-season Formula Ford showdowns. So they have a slightly earlier championship finale than most. So get yourself down here to Brands Hatch on the 28th and 29th of September to witness what should be a really, really entertaining final round of the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship. It's a great racing all round. A shame that we lost one or two by the wayside as the race went on, but it was exciting nonetheless. And Ross Martin becomes the third different winner of the weekend then, with Spike Colbecker and Neil McLennan, his big rivals, winning the first two races. So the big three in the championship, essentially, Martin, Colbecker and McLennan, top three in the points, extending their margin now as well at the top of the championship, and they are your three winners from the races here at Brands Hatch. So, as we've said a few times today, the cream tends to rather rise to the top, and that's what we've seen in our Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship races here at Brands Hatch. And yeah, as I said, the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival will be coming later on this season as well. Right there, let's head down to Bryn in the pit lane, who's got our podium finishers.
Well, that was a race, wasn't it? Every single time we thought, hey, this is nice, green flag. There was another yellow flag and all the cars bunched back up again. And at the end, 1.8 seconds for the top 8 cars. That was extremely close, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic race. Bit disappointed to get done. At the end, Neil was quite smart. He sort of he overtook me like as at the green flag. Because I hadn't bothered to cover because there was a green flag sort of on the corner, and he went for it, sort of in, which is it was fairly smart.
It's a tricky place here, isn't it, when the race restarts, or whether you can start the race and you've got to kind of really build up to it around here because it's kind of a blind right-hander.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking on the restarts was what would I do, and Ross did exactly what I would have done. So I just kind of guessed and sort of got it right. But no, I mean, it's been a fantastic weekend, and to have it's an odd feeling because we should be really happy with third because it's obviously a great result, but the car's been absolutely on the money all weekend. So to have one podium, it's a bit sort of what could have been, but it's still a good result, and it's still a huge testament to everyone at Cliff Dempsey Racing, Neil Bold Engines, Ray Race Cars. The car's been on point, and also I've got a lot of family and friends watching, so I'd just like to say thanks to all them.
It's also quite nice to come here with such changeable weather to be able to get down, knuckle down and get a decent result, because it is a very, very testing place, particularly when it's rainy and then dry and rainy and then dry and you don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think every session's been slightly different, so, and again, to be quick in all sessions is, shows how good the car's been.
Well done.
Thank you.
Let's bring in second place then, shall we? Right, here we go. Come over here for us, Neil. So that was, well, I've just said to James, it's such a tricky one to watch because every time we got started, it sort of slowed down again with more yellow flags.
Yeah, no, that was a tricky race. Starting from 7th, I didn't expect to actually get up that far, really. But no, there's a few safety cars which kind of made us lose a bit of time on the track. So we got an extra 5 minutes towards the end, which helped me a bit. But no, it was a good race.
It was tricky watching the race duration changing constantly, and so for you in the car, it's very tricky to prepare yourself for a certain race length and obviously add more minutes and keep on going and think, when is this going to end?
Yeah, well, the first safety car, when that came in, there was only, I think it was 3 or 4 laps that was left of the race. And then the lap that the car came in, there was another crash, so they added 5 minutes onto the race after. So when I seen that, I was pretty happy then, because then I had a chance to try to get James, and luckily I did. So, no, the car's been good all weekend. Kevin Mills reached enough, and anyone else has helped out. So,
all this weekend's been quite nice to you, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's been worked out well for me. Yeah.
Well done to you.
No worries, thanks.
Good stuff. Now let's bring in our race winner there, Ross Martin. Now that was, I've said it to each of the drivers so far, and may as well say it to you too. Very tricky for us to watch that one because, how many times did we have a delay in the racing and a race extension, particularly near the end?
Yeah, 15-minute race, almost lasted half an hour, I think. But yeah, I made a good start by Aaron, and then again managed to break the toe and managed to get a gap. But again, I must have had maybe 5-6 laps out in front, and then safety car. So I knew there was 5 minutes to add, and I kept my eye on the time. But yeah, long race, a lot of pressure after the safety car again, but managed to keep my nose clean, and it was good racing by everyone out there, and nice to come away for another win.
Yeah, and for you, all told this weekend, happy with your work?
Yeah, it's been a mixed weekend. The pace has been strong, the dry pace showed. I think I came away with the fastest lap, but I was a bit down myself yesterday with the mistake I made, and I apologise to my team and my family, but came back strong today, and yeah, more points and another win.
Obviously, you don't want to make mistakes in racing, but mistakes happen, and it's how you bounce back from that.
Yeah, definitely. I think after Crofts, I was on a high, and I felt as if I was on a low yesterday afternoon. But yeah, I've brought myself back, and another win to the board's nice, and yeah, I'm over the moon.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Go and get your next bit of silverware.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.